Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV. And hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show is The Corner Bookstore. And joining me again, as always, the lovely, the talented, the woman who is always on the road making stuff happen. It's Diane Floyd Boehm. Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn from Georgia.
Woohoo! I can never keep up with you, Diane. I love it.
Thank you.
So, as for people who are just joining us for the first time, Diane is a co-host here at USA Global TV. She's also one of our experts talking head members, and she's an elevated listener. And when she's not over here working with me, she's an international award-winning author. She is a performer of all sorts. And what I mean is she performs from her heart. She just gives her heart truly all the time. She has an incredible network of people, and she's so happy to connect everyone. And she has wonderful people and friends who are also in the publishing industry and also other authors. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this show, right, Diane?
That's absolutely correct. We want to give a voice for all those authors.
Wonderful. We've got a wonderful person backstage who's been with us before in some other shows. We're happy to bring her out shortly. But Diane, I'm going to spotlight you as always. And if you would give your background information to our first-time viewers, that would be fantastic.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. We're excited that you're here with us. My name is Diann Floyd Boehm, DIANN FLOYD.BOEHM.com. That's my website. Be sure to go there and sign up so you'll never miss anything exciting that's going on with all my books, book signings, adventures, etc. So we'd love to have you here. And Dr. Jacalyn, I'll let you talk about our fabulous, and of course she's very special to me because she publishes some of my books, our guest.
Thanks so much, Diane. Yes, it's interesting on the journey for myself as an author, just trying to figure out how the whole thing works with publishing and what the differences are between self-publishing and hybrid, and working directly with one of the big publishing houses. I've actually learned a lot from our guest, Anne, because there are reasons and seasons, I guess I would say, as to who you should work with, depending on what type of genre your book falls into, and depending on if you are able to do the marketing yourself, if you have some area of expertise, and if not, when you should work with somebody who knows what they're doing and can help you attain the goals that you want. And so Anne has been on our business show. I think she was on another show. I'll have to ask her when she comes out. But she basically, she can help people in what's called, I believe, a hybrid model. And she'll explain more about that. And she specializes in certain genres as well. Diane, I'd love for you to share how she's worked with you.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Well, Anne O'Connell from Odyssey Publishing, she's a dynamo. She started her own publishing company, so she can share that story. I'm blessed to have known her as a friend, and then she was kind enough to accept me as one of her first authors. She not only published my book, but this was a whole new world for me, just an absolute novice. I mean, like from the get-go. And what's so beautiful about that is that Anne held my hand She answered what I would have thought might have been a really silly question, and she was so kind to say there's no such thing as a silly or stupid question. And and I really believe a lot of my success today is because of her nurturing and not letting me give up when, especially when I was doing this first young adult book. I was like, oh my gosh, because I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And her strength gave me strength, and I really appreciate that.
That's a great point, Diane, because in life, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, who you let hold your hands and lead you really can make a difference on how you end up. And so Anne has had a wonderful relationship with you as well as so many others. I don't want to take any more time talking about her. Let's just bring her out here.
Yes,
Welcome.
let's do.
Just wiping a few tears. That was
It's nice to see you again. And has it been 2 or 3 shows so far? Is this?
I did the reunion show.
That's it.
That's right.
21 reunion show, and had done the business show. So thank you so much for having me again. And this one makes so much sense for me, of course. And it's great to see you
Absolutely.
guys again. Thanks.
Well, it's nice to have you back again. And for people who are interested in publishing a book, but they don't really understand the whole process and they don't understand the choices, can you elaborate and explain for them?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's a very steep learning curve, and I started my company 6 years ago, OC Publishing, which is a hybrid publishing company. And for people who are just entering or thinking about entering, the publishing realm, they're working on a book, they've finished a manuscript, and they really don't have any idea where to turn. It can be really daunting because we now have, the hybrid publishing model, we have traditional publishing, we have self-publishing, there's vanity publishing, and they all overlap a little bit. Even traditional publishers nowadays are, starting self-publishing arms of their companies. Like Hay House has a self-publishing arm. So it's a real kind of a dog's breakfast, I call it. But my model, the hybrid publishing model, which sort of evolved, and when I first started my company 6 years ago, it wasn't as common. And I called it a partner publishing model because, as Diane was saying, I really believe in together collaborating to get your book out. It's like a baby. People who have written a book know what goes into it, and the time, the emotion. No matter what kind of genre you're writing, you're putting a part of you in, on that page. So for me, that relationship is really critical. So when we talk about hybrid, it's a hybrid between traditional publishing and self-publishing. So my authors are still considered indie authors because it's a pay to publish model. But I follow the exact same process as a traditional publisher would. So from the manuscript review, I don't take on every manuscript that comes to me. I do have editors, acquisitions editors, developmental editors, copy editors that I work with, and designers as well. But because I've sort of established a brand right now, a manuscript has to sort of suit the back catalog that I have. So from, the point of reviewing the manuscript to, entering into an agreement, everything is done collaboratively and by phase. So there are some phases that an author is more involved in, but if an author prefers to be hands-off, then that's okay too. So we create a program that works for that author. So just to specify the genres that I specialize in, and it's sort of evolved because of the genres that I like to read, because we do spend a lot of time reviewing and reading. Women's fiction, historical fiction, memoir, mystery, young adult, first chapter books, and children's picture books, because in a previous life, I was a preschool teacher. So that's a big nutshell, but that's kind of in a nutshell.
Thank you, Anne. You also mentioned indie. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. When we refer to indie authors, it's typically an author that rows their own boat. They're independent of a big publishing house. So that's again a very simple description. Other people might have different ideas. There are some small presses that sometimes refer to themselves as indie publishers, but it's just sort of separate from the traditional, big five, so to speak.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We do have a couple of comments.
Okay.
Hi, David. Nice to have you with us. David is over in the UK. Wants us to know he's here. And also CJ Peterson comments, when both the publisher and the author put their best effort for each other, it makes the hybrid model work really well.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hi,
And
CJ.
how lucky I am. I have both my publishers here. CJ, thanks for supporting me.
Yeah, Diane is such a prolific writer, and she just keeps pumping out manuscript after manuscript, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So we've published 6 books together.
Yes.
So I'm like, I really want to keep publishing your books, but you might want to,
spread the love around.
Broaden the team.
That's right.
You just hit on something that I've mentioned before on this show, but it was a whole eye-opening experience for me when I realized that authors are collaborative as opposed to competitive, and not trying to knock somebody off their pedestal. It's kind of like, no, we want you to be on a pedestal. We want to support you. We want to support each other. How does that happen?
You know what? I think it's really personality. I have a very sort of nurturing, helpful personality. I've always been a teacher at heart. So no matter what kind of initiative I'm involved in, I just want to share and teach. And I think that, authors recognize that, and I think there's really a movement right now, and I think led predominantly by women, that there's this movement of raising one another up. And I just think that just makes people so much stronger. There's no benefit to me to, putting an author down, or, a fellow publisher. I honestly, and especially with the pandemic, people have been writing like, it's like a fire hose coming at me, and I can't possibly drink it all myself. So I'm so thrilled when I know people like CJ or other, similar publishers that I can happily and confidently refer people to, if maybe it's not the type of the genre I would publish, or my pipeline is so backed up right now, which is really an exciting place to be. But I'm also working on ways to, improve the flow and expand. I don't want to get too big, because the personality of the company really is who I am. So, but I've attracted lots of like-minded, people who I consult with and contract with. So does that answer the question?
Definitely, yes. And we have a follow-up from CJ.
Oh.
When we all share each other's work, it's for the benefit of the reader. We're all fans of readers. After all, we're all in this together. Yeah. Brilliant.
And it's I Love to Read Month. So, we've been celebrating readers over here at OC Publishing as well. And I mean, we always celebrate readers, but, we have to sometimes make a special effort and shout out, because where would we be without readers, right?
One of the other things Anne does is Anne brings her authors together, and you have workshops, correct, Anne?
Yes. Hopefully we can do that again soon.
This is true. This was pre-COVID, right?
Yes.
Right.
Before COVID. Yeah.
So share a little bit about what you offer with the workshops.
Oh, sure. I'm hoping, as we, come out of this pandemic, that I'll do, annual gatherings of OC Publishing authors, but I also have created and facilitate an annual writers retreat, and it usually takes place at the end of October, mid to end of October. The last 5 years has been here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and it's a beautiful time of year. The leaves are changing, and it's quite gorgeous. So it's an in-residence 5-day retreat. And people come from all walks of life that write all genres. The workshops are predominantly fiction and creative nonfiction oriented. So we talk about plot development and character development, and writing descriptions and scenes, and showing, not telling, or how to pick a point of view and stay in it, and those kinds of things. Building tension, flow of story, character growth, and those kinds of things. So it's one of my favorite times of year. Retreats are a lot of work, but I get a lot of joy out of bringing people together. And again, the collaborations that happen during writing retreats are pretty incredible. And if you're an author, or like a wannabe author, or looking for like-minded people, find a retreat somewhere in your area, or maybe even go abroad. One of my fellow publishers does a retreat in Tuscany. That's absolutely amazing. I started doing my retreats in Thailand. So, but Nova Scotia is so beautiful. I haven't really broken free from here. So yeah, I highly recommend writing retreats. And so I do that annually.
Thank you, Anne. I really like the comment that you made earlier. It gave me pause to think when you said working in certain genres. A lot of it has to do with the type of read what you enjoy reading, which makes a lot of sense, right? That's how you find your passion. So
Yeah.
if you were reading a bunch of things that had no interest to you,
Yeah.
So how did you learn and decide these are going to be it? These are the genres I specialize in, because you might have other interests too, but at some point you mentioned the fire hose, you've got to bring it back.
True. Well, and in my previous life, so I've had my publishing company for 6 years. In my earlier professional life, I was in PR and marketing. So speaking of writing things that really don't excite you, so I tended to be attracted to organizations that, again, I could be passionate about, because I found it very hard to represent a brand or an individual that I didn't believe in, or I didn't have passion for. Could I write the stuff and spout it? Of course I could, but I'm the type of person that you can see it on my face. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So having your PR person out there speaking to the media who doesn't really believe in you or love you to bits is probably not a good thing. So I worked a lot in education, broadcast media, and things of that nature, health and wellness. So I evolved in, oh my goodness, I'm going to date myself here, at least 12, 13 years ago, decided to hang out my own shingle, went freelance. So was doing, social media, copywriting, content development, and that kind of thing. And at that time, I started writing books as well. My first was a nonfiction, but then the first novel I wrote was mystery. I love reading mysteries. I watch all of the cop shows, the cop dramas, and things of that nature. I also I'm scared of the sight of blood, so I would never be working the healthcare business. But I love, hospital dramas and things like that. I've devoured historical fiction over, my lifetime of reading. I've been a reader since I was like 2. My parents instilled a real love of reading in all of us. There are books all over the house. So I guess in answer to your question, how I landed on the genres that I'm publishing is because I want to feel passion for the authors I work with. I want to love the books they're writing. So in order for that to, come naturally, it has to be a genre that I really enjoy. I've had queries from people who are writing, thrillers or whatever, and if it opens and it's too intense and too sort of bloody, or then that just doesn't really fit the brand that I'm trying to establish. I publish children's books, so I can't stray too far from that kind of feel. It doesn't mean that. So I publish memoir, and some of the memoirs that I published have some pretty intense, difficult situations, from sexual abuse, bullying, eating disorders, and things like that. But what I like about those is there's always a good outcome, like the author has really overcome. And that's usually when someone wants to write about their experience, is if they've overcome adversity, they've found some resilience within themselves, and it's something they want to share to help others. So those are the kinds of people I'm attracted to as well, so as a human being.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I love mystery also. I don't watch network television except for Law and Order SVU. I'm obsessed with that.
Yes,
You love it too?
Criminal Minds, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to have to get you guys, real on a side note, sorry, Dr. Jacalyn, is to check out BritBox. They have,
oh, yes.
Their detective shows are phenomenal.
Yes.
I'm stuck on Vera at the moment.
Vera, yeah, I did watch some of that. Yeah. Yes.
I usually watch everything on Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah.
So BritBox, a lot of their shows are on Prime as well. Just a FYI.
Okay, that's good to know. Amazon Prime. A question I have for both of you, just a curiosity. If you're standing, I don't know where, in a grocery store, or you're in an airport, and you see that whole collection of magazines, like tons of magazines, what's the first one you're going to be drawn to? The first type of mag? You don't have to give the name, but.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't, the magazines I read are mostly industry, Quill and Choir, Geist magazine, and those kinds of things. But I don't mind saying I love People magazine. Hello, so, and again, because of the characters. So I thought you were going to ask if you're in an airport or a grocery store and you're watching people, and like all of a sudden you're developing their story in your mind. Or I run home and I write notes if I saw somebody unusual, because I'm like, oh, they're a character. They're gonna be in my next book.
I love that. How about you, Diane?
I love Psychology Today, so. And then I'll pick up like Macworld, something like that, because I love gadgets and technology.
Oh, cool.
But I'm a people watcher. From high school on up and in drama classes, it was all about watch people in case you become that character. And now I watch people to see if I need them inside my stories.
It is fun to watch, watch people without judgment, just to watch people's behavior and decisions.
Mannerisms. You might hear a word that you don't normally hear, and you're like, "Ooh, I like that word." You can jot it down. All types of little things once you tune your eye into it. So, Dr. Jacalyn, it's all about listening.
I was going to say, and I hate to admit this, but sometimes you find yourself eavesdropping, like on
right.
Again, thinking about some of my workshops, I do writing dialogue. And some people come by it very naturally, and some people struggle with writing dialogue. Some people, write more narrative, and some people, so it's kind of interesting to, when you're writing dialogue, to make sure that you're writing it naturally. So listening to other people's conversations
is there. And Dr. Jacalyn, so one thing Anne had to work with me on is, and if I recall this correctly, is that because I was at that particular time on stage a lot, and so I was really writing, like everything was in dialogue format, and she's like, you really need
to flesh out the scene a little bit.
Well, she said.
How did you take that feedback, Diane?
What?
How did you take the feedback?
I loved it, because I I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? You know, because I didn't understand. I'm like, it made so much sense. And she was okay, but you know, you need to talk about what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh,
Do
okay.
the 360. Yeah, yeah. But it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great fun. And I
It
mean,
still is.
yeah, it still is, right? So
After all these years, it
Yeah.
still is.
it
Oh, I know,
still
right?
is.
We
Well, at
did
least I didn't do like I did in high school when everything came back with red all over it, and I had super long hair, and I just throw my hair in my face, and then the tears would just roll, you know. So it's important for people listening out there is that, you know, you just because you're published doesn't mean you didn't have a journey to get there.
and it continues like it, you know. And I wish, you know, when you track changes, you talk about red on the paper. When you track changes, like everything's red, like these lines in red, and Diane's like, "Oh, I didn't realize it." And I'm like, "It really isn't that much, you know. Just
Yeah.
ignore the lines."
And that was one thing that Anne was so good about holding my hand, because I know I sing well, right? And I already learned how to take constructive criticism. And so I wouldn't cry anymore. I just improved. But this was a whole new thing for me. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that she saw all that. And she had to do all, and she's like, stop. Right, Anne?
It's
She
okay
can
to
show
cry,
us.
number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And number two, you know, the idea is yours, and what you put down on the paper is awesome, and it's my job to pretty it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, or to bounce ideas off, or that's what editors are for.
Mhm. So I'm really loving this industry. So.
It's incredible. I'll be doing it until I draw my last breath, probably.
And I'm sure you know this, Diane is an outstanding storyteller, and she just did a presentation yesterday, I think, on our Talking Heads show.
Mhm.
How important is it for the reader that the author is able to tell the story in a way that people can relate to it?
Oh, it's critical. Like if you're not a storyteller, you know, you really should pick another profession. I mean, just to really be blunt, because if if a story doesn't capture someone's attention, you know, there's so much competition out there. There are a lot of books out there. So if you don't get them on the first page or two, then you know, there are some people. I'm the type of person, once I open a book, like I have to finish it. It might take me a little longer, but there are people that are like, meh, nope, next. You know, my to be read pile is really, really big. I don't need to waste time. So yeah, storytelling. Most authors are storytellers. You know what I mean? And if verbally is how you prefer to tell it, then do it like a voice to text, you know, type of a process, or you know, as you're typing, talk it as you type. When I do like a final edit, or even during the process of editing, especially with dialogue, I speak it out loud so that you hear and see how it flows.
That makes a lot of sense. And something I was wondering about, having been in the corporate world for so long, I would hear it over and over again. You really should write a book. It's like a business card. Write a book. It's like a business card. Doesn't matter if it does well or if anybody reads it, but you should write a book so that you have extra credibility. So I
Mm.
never did it until after I left. But is there any truth in that?
Um, I think partially, I think it's true. I don't think you should write it just to write it. And I think that, you know, obviously they were hearing your story and listening to what you were doing in your corporate life, and found what you were saying to be, you know, spot on. So, you know, but having a purpose is important. So why are you writing it? You know, are you going to then teach what you've got in that book and then have it back a room, or as part of the, you know, the package of someone doing your workshop or your seminar or whatever? Is it to, you know, encourage other business people to explore a different leadership style or whatever. There's got to be some kind of a goal, not just to write a book, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
Diane, anything you'd like to add to that?
I agree with Anne completely. Yeah, it's great that you can say, "Oh, I've written a book," but if nobody picks it up or finds worth, and
Mhm.
you're like, "What? You could have done something better with your time, maybe."
Because there are no guarantees. So
Yeah,
spending
there's
that
no
much
guarantees.
time on
Right, right.
something, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I have a second book coming out. I'm working with Red O'Loughlin, and he's such a good guy. And we talked about the book is about people's adversity and real major adversity that people have overcome, whether it's sex trafficking or homelessness, etc.
Mhm.
And thought about adding in a chapter about my own adversity. This is actually very recent, and it's been written, but I haven't made a complete commitment because it's so, there's nothing left to hide. It's like, this is what
Right.
happened to me. And, once it's out there forever. So what are your thoughts about putting it all out there, Anne?
Well, I sure encourage my memoir authors to do that, right? Um, and I understand your hesitation because, there's certainly things in my life that I've woven into my novels, and we'll keep doing that. But people have to guess, what really comes from me. Um, I think it depends on the format of your, like, I'll speak directly to the book you're working on. Um, is there an option, like, as you're writing it, when you're introducing a particular chapter, are you like, is there an opportunity for you in the introduction to say, this particular story really stuck with me and was like a gut punch because, here's what I experienced. So could you weave it in instead of having a separate chapter?
Hmm.
Because as the author, I don't know, or the collector, researcher, share of other people's stories, or do you do it as a prologue? It would certainly be powerful, I think.
I think it would open some eyes.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like,
I mean,
what?
it does take some bravery, and it also, you have to be comfortable with the questions that could come, and of course, as you're doing the promotions for the book and doing interviews and things of that nature, is it something you want to keep hashing over? And I think we talked earlier about one of my authors, Montaha Hadefi, who wrote her memoir that we launched in 2018, and it was at the time called Groping for Truth: My Uphill Struggle for Respect. And she, for years, from the time she was a child, endured abuse, and harassment, beginning at the hands of her mother. So it was a very, very difficult memoir to write. So emotional, and she had been in years of therapy, and the scenarios are heartbreaking. To one of the scenes that somebody tried to kill her, fired at her. Um, so she then, after it was published, even when she did readings, when we launched the book, it was again a rehashing of things. The wounds were still pretty raw. Um, last Toward the end of last year, she decided she's multilingual. She's a brilliant woman. She has a master's in translation. So she wanted to translate her book into Spanish. And as a professional translator, I thought it was a great idea. As she was writing the Spanish version, she came across her journal that she had kept while she was in therapy. And so it was again, oh my God, so many new wounds opening. So she folded in some of that. She also added a chapter because while she was doing the translation, her mother passed away. But prior to that, she had been able to make peace with her mother. So really heart-wrenching stuff. And so I said to her, with all of this new information and material that you're adding, we need to re-release the English version. So that has just come out. and we changed the title to Giving Voice to My Silence. So yes, if somebody will get personal benefit from opening up and sharing their story, and they come to me and want my help and support. But you just have to also be prepared for any of the blowback that could come. You have to be careful when you're writing about other people, as truthful as it might be. So, that's sort of a little caveat. Yes, write about your life. It's very cathartic, but do it purposefully and for a reason.
Excellent points. Maybe write it and then get it out there and rip it up. Throw it in the trash.
Just get it off your chest.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do have a comment from CJ. She writes, "You're braver than I am. I go by Ant's theory, little bits of me in the stories, but they have to figure it out."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's also a valid point, that once you start doing interviews or promoting, people are going to want you to relive it over and over and over again. If you kept it shoved down and in the dark place for so long, and now it's out there all the time, it's something to consider. Thank you.
I will say, Montaha did say to me that she now is finally able to talk about it and think about it without dissolving into like a puddle of sobs. And, so it really, for her, the process was extremely healing. And she's also let go of any worry or concern about how somebody else might take it. So, and I think that's a lot of the, with the Me Too movement, that sort of, calmed down a little bit, but hopefully has initiated enough of a focus on people being able to speak out, to tell a story without fear of reprisal. You know what I mean? Like, victims are victimized over and over and over again because either they're not believed, or the perpetrator has more power, but she says, these people do not have power over me anymore. So that's very
beautiful.
Powerful.
And it's a great title too.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the next title that will come out from OC Publishing is a women's fiction, but it's a little somewhere between what CJ and I do and what Montaha has done. It's a fictionalized. Actually, the initial first one is behind me. The author, we published her first book last year in April, The Healing. It's based on the author Linda Faye Schmidt's life, but she's fictionalized it. And as she was writing it, there was a lot of discussion that people wanted to know more about the what happened before the healing began. So we're about to launch the prequel. Do you love that cover?
It's gorgeous.
Yes.
This is The Holding, prequel to The Healing. And this is an original photograph. The basic theme sort of underlying this comes from the author's own relationship with her father, who was her champion, her warrior, her support. So it's all about the father-daughter relationship and how that can really instill, a sense of strength and resilience. And even though the character Kate Henderson, The Holding actually starts with the main character's birth, and The Healing, is actually picks it up from the point that the main character leaves an abusive relationship. So there's a lot that happens. The main character also, when she's very young, is sexually abused by the teenage son of the babysitter. So a lot of these scenarios were actual experiences that the author had. So she also has come through a lot of this with the writing of the book, and faced some of these things and come out of it with a cathartic process. So she really wanted to recognize that a lot of her inner strength came from the loving relationship of her father and support. So, little plug for our next book coming out, The Holding.
That's exciting. Dr. Jacalyn, just so you can, this is a lot of heaviness.
I know.
But so I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. If you have those books, the Frog and
yes,
and
absolutely.
Ham Bone.
I always have. So we have a genre that has become very, as we know, all of Diane's books are they're like half of my bookshelf. But I also, children's books are one of my passions. And Diane mentioned The Purple Frog, which
I love The Purple Frog.
Isn't he beautiful?
Wow, yes.
Hubert the Purple Frog. But he gets bullied and made fun of. So there is a little bit of darkness to poor old Hubert, because he's purple and all of the other little frogs are green. So Hubert is a bit sad, but because he doesn't really like being different. But then one morning he wakes up with a green spot on his forehead, and then each day he has more green, but he tries to hide it. So he puts this little Band-Aid to cover the green spot, because a purple frog with green spots will be ridiculed even more. So anyway, the whole idea of the story, and of course his mother loves him and wants him to, recognize that sometimes our strengths come from our differences. And then of course little Ham Bone.
I love Ham Bone.
Like pigs have curly tails. And this is the story of how pigs got their curly tails. So this is all actually about pursuing your dreams as well. So he dreams about eating a nice sour pickle, and he goes on an adventure, and he meets all kinds of neat characters who help him on his journey. So that story is about, giving each other a helping hand and helping each of us, pursue our dreams. Diane talks a lot about that in her books as well. And I guess we've got the most recent.
Oh, yes.
Is Terence O'Toole and the Dragon. Is about a little boy who befriends a dragon who's lost and lonely. And that the theme kind of revolves around tolerance and acceptance and being neighborly, because the dragon kind of, makes friends with all the neighbors, rescues kittens from trees, lets the kids slide on his tail and all that fun stuff. So being neighborly is always fun. And if I could talk a little just quickly about the OC Pub Book Club.
Yes.
We are starting a book club this month. The first book will feature is going to be The Healing by Linda Faye Schmidt. If you join the book club, all members get a free PDF download, and then discounts on books if you want print copies. So go to the website, www.ocpublishing.ca. There's a link on the main page to go to the OC Pub Book Club page. So you can see
Yay.
next half hour showing you all of Diane's books.
Thank you so much, Anne, for being here. It's a great show. I learned so much, and I appreciate your advice and your expertise and your experience. Thanks also to CJ for engaging with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Just one more little plug. If anybody out there is looking for ways to promote literacy, to help kids get books into the hands of people in the community, I've been supporting lately the Little Free Libraries movement. So if you have a little free library in your town, you may have seen it. It's like they're tiny little boxes that people take books and leave books in. So littlefreelibraries.org. Highly recommend maybe even starting one or finding one to donate some books to. And then another Endangered Alphabet Project is another organization that I've been supporting. The world has 6,000 to 7,000 languages, and half will be extinct by the end of the century. And 85% of the world's alphabets are endangered. So there's a gentleman named Tim Brooks. He spearheads a project to try and save these languages, keep the alphabets alive, and he does wood carvings that are absolutely beautiful. So endangeredalphabets.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne.
Wow. I had no idea.
Sorry, I just kind of went on a roll there.
No,
I
worries.
love it, but
it's great. We have to close out, though. We have a show right after this.
Yep.
So, Anne, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. So nice to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
We look forward to having you back again.
yes.
Take care.
Thanks, Anne. Take care.
Anne.
Bye.
Bye. Diane, I'm going to spotlight you and put up your banner. If you could share with us who should reach out to you and how should they do it?
Sure. Everybody reach out to me. We have stories, and my stories are children's stories, but they have something that us adults can learn from as well, and with the message. And then my young adult book, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. All my books you can find on Amazon and at your local bookstores. You can reach me again at diannefloydboehm.com. Sign up for my newsletter and never miss an opportunity to find out what's going on. Take care. Thanks, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thanks, Diane. Pleasure having you here, and safe travels.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate it. We've got 2 more shows coming up. Our next show is the Film and Music Show, and it is starting in less than 15 minutes. And following that is The Wise Ones. And after that, I'll be teaching a 3-hour course for the power of listening. We would love to have you join our team at USA Global TV as an elevated listener. You can get more information by going to my website, drjacalyn.com or usaglobaltv.com. All right, we'll be right back shortly. Thanks again, Ann. Thanks, Diane. Thanks, CJ. Bye.